Alright, we're gonna start tearing this motor down.
Get it ready.
If you got enough of these, you don't need to separate your bolts. Just put them all in one pile. You know exactly where they go. Alright, well, I'm sure you guys know, but the coils are 10 millimeters to take off. The intake was 8 millimeters to take off. The valley pan is either 10 or 13 millimeters depending on the year, but they're typically 13 millimeters. And you're probably wondering why I didn't take these out with the 22. It's because when they're rusty like that, they're hard to get out with the socket. So I'll pull the valley pan off and I'll get them with some vice grips right there on the edge. And they break free pretty easy, and then they just spin out. But if you try to take those out with the socket, most of the time it just strips and they don't come out very easily. But they usually come out right out with vice grips. And this little bugger doesn't want to come out usually. So I'll break it and then I'll cut this little piece, this little ring, and then I'll cut it with some snips and it'll come right out. But I don't need to do that right now. Ooh, that's pretty dirty in there.
Emotional damage.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. But you...
Alright, you got 6 tins that hold this water pump on. And you got about 5 15s that hold this alternator bracket on. And then you got a 24 holding the crank on. Zip that right out of there. Then you get your OEM Tools harmonic balancer puller kit. It's a 25090. That's the one I like to use. There's a bunch of them out there, but this one works really good. And that's that. That comes right off. Then you get your broken snap-on screwdriver that all it's left is the magnet. And you pull that little bolt out of there. Your 10 millimeters. Take all these out. And there's 2 on the bottom right there. And that comes right off of there. Boom. That is filthy. Alright, there we go, 1 oil pump. Get a new oil pump, melling, high volume. Alright, you know what it is today. We're about to pressure wash all this stuff. Got the old super cleans. Works really good if you're going to pressure wash. To pre-treat everything, get it loosened up a little bit. Know what I mean? Really got to loosen her up before you put the pressure on. It helps a lot.
That's it, boy. Get in there nice and deep like.
Alright, here it goes. We're going to hit it with the old foam channel. Alright, fellas, we're about to rattle tan all these parts real quick. Got the duplicate color because it's the only one you can get aluminum in around here. See that? Aluminum.
Say aluminum.
Aluminium.
I love that!
Probably wondering why I'm painting that seal. It's because I take that seal out after the paint is dry. Now that that's dry, we're going to hit it with the metal cast, the blue anodized. Gotta shake it to make it, know what I mean? Shake it to make it, boy. Shake it like a salt shaker. Shake it like a salt shaker.
I had a lot of practice on this one. This is easy for me. I'm having connections with this one. I've had a lot of practice with this. I don't have to hold it that high.
All right, fellas. Well, my mama said, mama said, need to wear some gloves, so that's what I'm doing.
Mama said that.
Today, we're gonna put this motor together. I think it goes something like that. I oiled all this stuff already. These little bad boys are 22 foot-pounds. If you don't have one of these, highly recommend you get one. I got this one on eBay for about 300 bucks. And what is this, you might ask? It is a digital torque wrench with angle. 3/8 drive snap-on. I'm guessing that's the model number right there. It says ATEC H2F 100 VG. 5 to 100 foot-pounds. Alright, so you get your crank bolt, put it in there, turn this bad boy over, and you see this dot right here and a dot right there. And you want to line them up close as you can get. Dot right there, dot right there, lined up. And then once that's lined up, just take your 3 bolts out for your cam gear, take the chain off. And then throw that away because you don't need it. That's if you're replacing this stuff. If you need it, then keep it, obviously. And then you take your camera painting plate. That should just slide right off. Boom. And you can tell this thing was leaking pretty bad. You want to make sure there's no debris around the cam right here. And then you're going to put some fresh oil or assembly lube if you have it. Put that right there. And then I like to wipe the sealing area off right there. And you want to get all 4 of your bolts started before you tighten them. Yes, indeed, the RT40s. And I think those are supposed to be 18 foot-pounds, but with these kind of generic plates, if you over torque those T40 bolts, they'll just snap off in there. So I usually put them to about 15 foot-pounds. We're going to open up our Cloys chain kit. I highly recommend you only use this brand. These are excellent quality. So the easiest way to do this is to put your chain with your little dot right there in the center, as close to the center as you can get it, and then hook it on the bottom there, and then it should go right on that little stud that locates this cam gear. Just put in the bolts. And it's really not necessary, but I like to put a little thread locker on the cam bolts. "22 foot-pounds. Just verify your dots are dot to dot there. Before you do anything else, make sure your motor turns. A melling M295HV, that's high volume, where the oil pump feeds oil to the block. Make sure there's no debris in that hole. You need to take that bolt out. Put on some clean gloves because you want to be nice and clean when you do this next part. We're going to take our oil pump, put some oil in here, and we're going to keep this piece center with our fingers and turn it. And that is what is known as priming the oil pump. It's going to pour out, but don't worry, it needs to be done. Just getting everything wet in there, basically. Getting some oil in the little pump area. And you got to try to keep this piece center the best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then do it again. Now we're going to try and center that piece right there. And this is kind of tricky, but make sure there's no junk on this. Kind of lube that up a little bit. This is where the oil pump sits. Now you're going to take your oil pump bolts. Be sure that when you take your oil pump bolts off the old pump, you keep them separate because they're a specific length. An important step here is to center the oil pump. And there's lots of ways to do that, but I found the easiest way is to lightly snug these bolts, turn the motor over, and then tighten them down. I'm not tightening these, I'm just running them down. And then just turn it over a couple times. What you're doing is making sure that the inside pump isn't binding up in there, okay? So that's done. 22 foot-pounds. All right, that's done. Now you want to make sure your gasket area is clean for your timing cover. Another critical step, in my opinion, would be to take some oil, put it in a cap, and pour some oil on this chain. You could have also pre-soaked the chain if you wanted to. This is the gasket set I use for Gen 3s. It is a Felpro 2601880. This is a good quality set. Highly recommend. You're going to take your front crank seal. Get it in there as best you can by hand. And you can take your old one. Stuff your bolts in a piece of cardboard and spray paint the heads of them after you clean them good. This will make it look real nice. Very nice. And let that dry. All right. So those 4 bolts go through the gasket and it holds the gasket. So you don't have to worry about the gasket falling off. You want to take some of your Mega Gray. This is the best RTV in my opinion. You want to put some right here behind the gasket on the corners, on the bottom corners only. All right, you don't want to tighten these down until you get all the bolts in, but you do want to start them. Now it's very important to align this timing cover properly, and it's very easy to do it wrong, but it's also very easy to do it right with no special tools. So you're going to start these bolts, get them right there snug. Now on the bottom, put your finger right there and push up. If you got it too tight, then loosen it up a little bit. And just push up to where the bottom of the block and the bottom of the timing cover are flat. They're even with each other. As good as you can get it. If you mess up your bolts a little bit, don't worry. 18 foot-pounds is sufficient for this cover. Don't go in a circle, do them opposite, like an X pattern. And there you go, that's done. Easy peasy. All right, now we're gonna put our valve cover on. It's just 4 8mm. Set this bad boy to low battery. Interesting. I'm gonna do 100 inch-pounds. Boom. Now just rinse and repeat on the other side. While I'm waiting for the bolts for this side to dry, I just painted them. I want to put this oil pressure sensor adapter on here. It is M16 or 22, can't remember, to 1/8 NPT. And this one's stainless steel, so it's not going to break. And it's also 27mm. Nice and tight. So to clear the intake manifold, you need to use the original small block Chevy. I believe that's 1/8 NPT to 1/4 NPT right angle adapter, and you're going to be using your original oil pressure sensor, but I'm actually going to replace this one because I think it's leaking because there's oil right here around the connector. Make sure and clean this old one pretty good. And you want to make sure you tighten this pretty good, but you also want to make sure you don't snap it off in there. Make sure you get the wrong tool. It's an important step. And you want to have it facing this way a little bit so it'll clear the firewall. Or facing this way so it'll really clear the firewall. And then boom, there's your oil pressure sensor. That one's for the gauges. The LSPCM does not require oil pressure, so all you need is one for the gauges. Make sure you replace these grommets on your valve cover bolts, please. If you don't, you won't get a good seal on the gasket because these are what applies the pressure, not the bolt itself. Beep, 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 beep. The battery died. I had to make the sound myself. I got the new oil pressure sensor. It is indeed 14 millimeter. Careful not to drop the nuts inside the engine. Not too bad in there. Just need to clean this bad boy. Alright. That's as clean as that would come. I pressure washed it and it's really stained on there. Make sure and really clean your oil pan gasket surface because you do not want to do this again later. When you're doing a custom swap, it could easily be a nightmare to do an oil pan gasket in the car. You really don't know. It really depends on the vehicle. This one's four-wheel drive, so I can pretty much guarantee you it's not going to be fun. So I'll hit it with the razor blade and wipe it a few times, and then I'll hit it with the steel brush. The block is stained, so you're not really going to get that stain out of there. Now the new oil pan comes with a new pickup tube and a gasket. I do not use the gasket that comes with the oil pan. I use the Felpro one. If you look at that and you go by this guide, it tells you to use, I think, the black one, but the black one doesn't fit good, so I use the green one. And sometimes you have no choice but to use the one that comes with the pickup tube. And then take some of your oil that leaked out of your oil pump and put it right there on the O-ring. And then make sure and get that area oiled up. I'm sure there's a torque spec for this, but it's not getting one. Very carefully, without dropping these into the timing cover, install your bolts for your pickup tube. That one is certainly the tricky one. And I will use a magnet for that one. here, 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 and here. Need RTV. You may have noticed the rear timing cover is not yet installed. That's because I can't do it with this engine stand, and I'll do it once I pull everything off. But that is not going to stop me from doing this. Make sure these bolts that hold this plate are tight. Make sure all your oil pan bolt holes are lined up. Try to make sure it's nice and square on there. Doing an X pattern again. Alright, we're going to put our motor mounts on. Pretty straightforward. I just recommend if you use these sliders, then don't tighten the bolts down all the way. And come back and tighten them later once you get the motor in there and set where you want. You want to put these in such a way that you can adjust them. And this bolt can't go here anymore. That was originally the ground bolt for the stock harness. Can't use it anymore. Now it slides. Oh. Alright, this comes with your oil pan. Highly recommend you take this with you to get the oil filter, because they'll tell you in the listing it takes one type of oil filter, but it doesn't actually fit. So if you take this with you and you know which side screws into the pan, which is the small side on this one, then you use the big side to screw into your oil filter. And if it fits and it's roughly the same shape down here, the same circular diameter, then it'll work. Doesn't matter what it's for. I use PF63, PF48, so on and so forth. Later I'll tell you the exact right filter for this pan. I don't currently know what it is. I'm gonna zip these plugs out, and then I'm going to put the exhaust manifolds on, and then I'm going to put the new plugs in that order. They come with gaskets, but once again, I am not using them. I am using the ones that come with the Felpro. These are good quality lead gaskets. Manifold side out, obviously. Boom. And they are part number 41962. Now, I highly recommend you do not use power tools putting in spark plugs. ceramic boot plug wires. Alright, we're about to stick with the water pump on. Velcro water pump gaskets. Okay, we're going to put the AC bracket on for the R4 compressor. Short bolt, medium spacer. Alright, so the bolts that go into this plate are the long ones. They go through the compressor, through this medium spacer, extra medium, this one gets a washer and a nut. And like that, we got our R4 compressor mounted. Okay, you're gonna have to loosen these up actually, because the tensioner has a spacer. Tensioner, and that's done. Alright, we're just gonna snap this accessory bracket on real quick. That's that.